everybody. I'm Kim, and you have just tuned in to the Out There with Kim podcast, the podcast where we talk about all kinds of events, people, and businesses that make our Central Kentucky community so very unique. And today, I have a very special guest. He's a visual artist, and his name is Jeremy Joshua Simmons. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on your podcast, Kim.
This is going to be a lot of fun today. Jeremy, I first found you. I don't know how I found you on Instagram. I'm not entirely sure because I found you before I knew that you were doing the play Into the Woods at Woodford County. So I think it was just your fun posts just happened to pop up because Instagram knows that I love fun people. And I started seeing your beautiful art and learning a little bit about you. And I just had to have you here on the show. Thank you so much again for joining me.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm glad that my Instagram posts gave you some joy.
Most assuredly. And you all, I'm going to put all of the information of how to find Jeremy, how to find his events, his website, all that stuff up in the show notes later. So we'll be putting some links to his events and to his Instagram as well. And you too can experience the joy of Jeremy Joshua Simmons. First off, let's talk a little bit about what you do. Jeremy, tell us a little bit about the type of art that you do.
Sure. So I create art you can touch and feel, and I do this mostly through palette knife painting. I use brushes sometimes when I'm doing faces just because I found you can really mess up a face with palette knives. But they work really well for adding lots of texture to the background once I paint a face or once I paint a pet. Sometimes I paint places for fun, so I say it's people, places, and pets, art you can touch and feel. And I just really love to capture movement through painting. So it's almost like you're going through a portal. You're going to a new world when you look at a painting.
That's so true. I've looked at a lot of your different paintings, and some of them, especially the equestrian paintings, and those are mostly races, Kentucky style, you know. The movement is incredible in these paintings. And I also want to talk a little bit about you saying art you can touch and feel. That's a very bizarre concept to me for a visual artist because we are always in museums, in art. We're kept away from the art a certain distance so that we literally can't touch it. Why? How? I've never heard of being able to touch art before like that. You mean you can just touch it?
Right. I know it sounds bizarre.
It does, actually.
Yeah. So I used to work in a children's library back when I was in college at Asbury University. And I was there for 3 years, shelving children's books and helping people find them. And one of the genres that we had were called touchy-feely books. And these were for toddlers, so children that are between 2 and 5 years old. And they loved them. They open these board books and they can touch them, you know, whether it's fuzzy or whatever, right? And so the art you can touch and feel sort of came about because I had this vision of art being accessible to everybody, really. It's something that you can experience on a sensory level. Not only can you look at it, but you can touch it. And I think in the same way that we make the arts accessible, whether it be through theater, music, dance, I think we should do that with art as well, visual art. Instead of it being something that is almost like a skyscraper, like you look up and it's insurmountable, or almost like a worm, you look down and it's like, oh, no one can actually make a career out of that. I think we should look at it more head on, like it's a swimming pool where you can just jump in with your friends. And I think part of the reason I'm so passionate about art you can touch and feel is because I do want it to be accessible to everybody.
That's something that I was really thinking about in that idea of a whole sensory experience, because in performing arts, we really do get that whole sensory experience, and we don't think of that with art. Which brings me to my next question. You teach palette knife painting to a lot of students with little to no experience. What makes palette knife painting so accessible or palatable? What makes your art so accessible to new visual artists?
That's a great question, Kim. I think one of the things that I value is the statement that everyone is an artist, regardless of your background or what you've been told. There have been some studies done that show that from the age of 2, all of us are creative geniuses.
Right.
So we can create so much, but usually by the time we hit kindergarten and we go into school, for our own good, we are told um, you have to fit the box.
We're given the rules of creating art, which
Mhm.
don't necessarily always have to apply. I was thinking about that as kids. We are all so creative. We have imaginary friends that we talk to and create plays and do performances and make drawings. And as we grow older and become adults, we stop doing a lot of that. So you had on your website, you talk a little bit about how for one of your first art fairs, there was a blind man who came to touch and feel your art. And that made me think, we never really grow up in some ways. Society tells us to grow up, but we don't have to. Adults can experience the same things, like those books that you were talking about. I feel the need to find touchy-feely books now for children at the library just so that I can experience that as well as an adult. So what were his experiences like, this blind gentleman that was able to experience your art?
Right. So, funny story, Kim. That morning was when I had the epiphany. This was one of my very first art fairs, and I had an epiphany of it's like the books. It's like art you can touch and feel.
Right.
And so I made a little homemade poster and I put it up with my artwork. And yeah, it was the weirdest thing. This guy comes up with his wife and he goes, hi, I'm blind, but my wife tells me that you have art I can touch and feel. And I just think that's so cool. So he picks up one of the paintings and, just puts his fingers on the canvas and he looks at me and he says, I just want to thank you so much for creating this. And to me, it was like, oh
Oh
my
my
goodness, like this was
gosh.
a sign. Like that
Yeah.
morning, of all things, that thought came to me.
Yeah.
I had no idea that there was going to be a blind guy at that fair,
Well,
but
why would I mean, he wouldn't have come up to you had that sign not been there, right? And his
right.
wife read it to him.
Right. Just one of those things that was the right thing at the right place at the right time,
Definitely
you know?
serendipity right there.
Yes.
That's a beautiful story because, yeah, you're right. Everyone should be able to experience art regardless of any restrictions they might have. I love that. So, palette knife painting, you're literally painting with the palette knife, the thing that you're supposed to mix the paints with?
Right, right. And it seems counterintuitive.
It
It
does.
does. Usually, like I had a painting night the other night, we were doing seascapes. And I always tell the painters, it's okay for the paint to mix. You want the paint to mix. I know that growing up, you sort of have a coloring book mentality of, oh, you have to stay in the
Yes.
lines. But with palette knife painting, it's really cool because it's a very simple process that anyone can do. And yet, when you finish, you look at it and you go, how in the world did we get that to look like a seascape or a city or horses? Just through. Just through pulling the knife down or swiping it across the canvas, there's so much you can do with it.
That's amazing. So, do you really think that everyone can? Because I'm going to be honest with you, Jeremy. I plan on taking one of your classes in the future, but I'm genuinely terrified because, I've never been a very good visual artist. I enjoyed it at one point, but I ended up going the performing arts route instead. And I have no confidence in my abilities. I don't even know different types of paint or how. I have no background in visual art. Is this something that really anyone, honestly, that anyone can do?
Totally. And Kim, also came from a theater background. So I totally get it. That actually helps me. Like the concepts from theater, like yes and listening
Uh
to
huh.
yourself and listening to other people as you go along, trusting yourself and trusting your instincts, diving into it, going, I see green. Oh, do I really see green? Yes, I do see green. And then just putting it there sort of builds, it's like a never ending adventure, really. And I'd have people come in, family, friends, people I've never met that will tell me, oh, I can't draw a stick figure. I'm not
That's
artistic.
me.
Is that you?
Yes.
And by the end of the night, they look at their painting and they go, how in the world did I do it? And it is, I think, the letting go of the fear of failure, going, I can do it. I really can. Because that's half the battle is if you can just tell yourself you can do it and
Yeah.
then you can do it.
To relax into it. And I think that's something that a lot of adults have in our heads is that we will make a mistake. We won't do it right. Well, what is right? What does that mean? It doesn't stop children.
Right.
So I
Right.
get it. I'm understanding a little bit more. Yeah. Well, you also had mentioned that you, like me, grew up with a performing arts background. So I have another question that I was a little interested in. Tell us a little bit about Dave Carter and how he changed your outlook on art.
Yes. So Dave Carter, in order to tell you about Dave Carter, I have to tell you about my third grade experience.
Uh-oh.
Yes. So I almost stopped art in third grade because I had a teacher. So we were creating stained glass windows.
Okay.
And
Yikes.
yeah, it was fun, but she gave us this very specific process of coloring on the paper and then putting some sort of chalky substance over it. And then we had these toothpicks and we would chip away so as to make it look like a stained glass window.
Okay.
The only problem was mine looked like spider webs. And so she had me and another one of my classmates come up to the room and she said, okay, class, here is Jeremy's painting and here's Sterling's painting. Which one do you think is better, basically? And they were like, oh, Sterling's looks better. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I could have died. But that was third grade.
That's traumatic.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
That's never a good thing for a teacher to compare two children to each other and ask the class to judge
I know.
the two students.
I was shocked.
That must have been very frightening. If that were me, third grade's about 8 years old. Yikes, that's
Right.
a lot. So you almost quit doing art.
I did. Yeah, that was third grade. And growing up, I loved to draw cruise ships. I had this unhealthy obsession with cruise ships. Like I would create my own designs and say, okay, this is what this cruise ship is called, and this is what this one's called.
Nice.
But I was always scared to death of failing through my
Right.
drawing, right? And so it wasn't until high school that I took this art class with this guy named Dave Carter. And Dave Carter is the artist for Texas Roadhouse.
Oh, cool.
Yes, he creates the murals around the world.
So he travels all over the place to do. That's amazing.
Isn't that cool? Yeah, he just happens to live in Lexington,
Of course.
right?
Of course. That's perfectly Lexington, though. All the hidden gems, and Dave Carter's clearly one of them.
He is. He's amazing. He's a really humble guy, very quiet guy. But I took his class, and he taught us to draw not what we think we see, but to actually draw what we see. And you might be asking, well, what does that mean?
Yeah, I
right?
am asking, what does
Yeah, what
that
does
mean?
So, for example, if you have a giraffe, we all have an image in our head of what a giraffe looks like.
True, I'm seeing my vision right now. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So you think there's a head, there's a neck, there's a body. But he said, look at it in terms of color and shape and shading. So that's not a head, that's a triangle next to a rectangle, next to an oval. And that really changed the way that I look at faces and animals and really
Sure.
whatever I draw. But he was the one that told us to just throw your fear of failure out the window, because with art, you start something, and then much like with performing arts or writing, you come back and you revise it
True.
so that the finished product is even more beautiful than the starting point.
That makes sense. I love that.
Yeah,
So he really set you free as far as art goes.
he really did. It was amazing. He was such an encouraging person, still is. He still creates
So
wonderful
you
art.
still communicate with him?
I do. Yes.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. What a treasure for him to have one of his students that's found success through his teachings to be able to still communicate. That's wonderful.
It's great. And what's really cool is I saw him last month, and with a teacher, you always have sort of that understanding of, oh, they're a teacher, I'm a
Right.
student.
Mhm.
But he came up to me and he said, you're creating some really great art. And to me, that was like, oh my goodness.
Oh my God, I would just pass out right there.
Yes, I almost did.
Yeah. That's fabulous. So, Jeremy, you talked about growing up with a theater background as well. And I just mentioned this earlier, that very recently, actually, you were in a production of Into the Woods at Woodford County and the Woodford Theater. So what role did you play?
So I played the steward, which
Okay.
yes, which is the royal family's servant that really did a lot of the dirty work.
Little bit.
Yes.
So you sing as well, and there's some dancing in that show. So did you dance also? Yeah,
Yes,
you did.
I did, yes.
Did you have a fun time with that project?
I had an absolute blast.
Did it does something like that when you do theater, does it inspire your painting?
Yes. Oh, yes, totally. Like after I did Into the Woods, I painted something and I called it Into the Woods because of, just having those different images of Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf, the granny's house, it does invoke a lot of inspiration that you can put out. And I think that the arts go together
Absolutely.
for sure. Yeah.
I remember I studied at UK. I studied theater there, and we were in the same building as a lot of the other arts, the fine arts building, which I'm going to be honest, we called the farts building when I was in school. It was so juvenile and childish when we would tell each other what time we had classes at the farts building. Oh my goodness, it was. But it's a funny story now. But I
Yes.
remember being housed with all those people. We were housed with the opera people. We were housed with, of course, our theater people and visual artists on different floors and art history on different floors. And one of the mistakes that I think I made was not visiting those other types of artists and seeing those studios around the building. Well, that's what happens sometimes when we're in college. We get so hyper focused on something that we stay within our own realm a lot of the time. And so I think that's important for young people to explore different types of art because, like you just mentioned, it all came together for you, especially with being inspired by theater. Theater inspired your painting. I wonder also if painting inspires you as an actor.
Oh, 100%. It's so
Interesting.
interesting, yes, because Into the Woods was the first show that I did at Woodford Theater.
Okay.
And at auditions, we picked one side that we wanted to read. And for some odd reason, I was the only guy that picked that particular side. And so
Okay.
I read the scene a few times with different females. And each time it was almost like putting on a fresh, how do I say it? Like new coloring to the
Okay.
scene,
Oh,
playing it one way and then playing it another way. And I do think in some way, I don't have science to back this up, I'm just saying, that painting does something to your brain where you learn to see stuff in almost a color theory sort of way, almost like, not to be too out there, but to play the scene green, to play the scene red, to play it blue. That sort of when you have what you want from the other person in the scene and how you get it,
oh my gosh.
but doing it through the color. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I just had a light bulb moment for the next time I decide to do a show
Oh my
of how
goodness.
to approach things differently. That's incredible, Jeremy. I really love that idea that visual arts and painting influences performance and performance enhances your visual art as well.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you
That's
got
really
something
cool. Yeah, I'm
from
going to
it.
have to take something from the School of Jeremy Acting, which honestly, that's something that you're doing right now, isn't it? We're going to talk about some of your upcoming stuff here in just a few minutes. But
Sure.
well, you know what? Let's talk about that now. One of the classes that you're offering is a basic acting class. Is that correct?
It is, yes. Looking at acting through lenses of, what do you want from the other person in the scene? How do you get it? But also looking at different techniques that I've learned from studying acting. And yeah.
I think that would be, I hope you introduce your students to the idea of your art and playing with color in the mind of what you want to get out of a scene. I love that. We do a lot of work, as you know, in theater, talking about what we want and what our purpose is in that scene and what we're trying to get from the other performers or the other characters would be more accurate to say. I just think that's really cool that you're offering acting classes now too. But you do offer a variety of classes, and I believe these classes are for all abilities and all levels. Would that be correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so tell us about some of the upcoming stuff that you've got going on.
For sure. So on March 15th, I have a painting class at the Public Well, which is in Nicholasville.
Okay, that's coming right up. Yeah,
It's
just a few
coming.
days. Yeah.
Yes. We will be painting Kentucky Springscapes.
Ooh, that
Yes.
sounds like fun. So tickets are still available now, correct?
They are, yeah. For $40, you get chips and salsa, a drink, a Springscape painting class, and the chance at the very end to win my finished painting.
Ooh, that's
Yes.
exciting. And you will be there as an instructor, of course, to lead people along and help them out. That's a great price for all of that fun stuff. I mean, I could eat $40 worth of chips and salsa right now, as we were discussing. My stomach could go bananas at any moment now and become the third person in this room. But I mean, that's a great deal. So
Thank
we're going to
you.
put that link for signups there as well. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Anything else coming up?
Yes, so I have a Basics of Acting class, which is on March 11th from 7 to 9 p.m.
Okay.
Yes, I only have 8 spots though.
Oh, well, yeah, you can't have gigantic acting classes. That gets a little difficult. So this is that's fantastic, though, to be able to study acting in a more intimate setting with just a few other students.
Oh, for sure. It'll be ages 9 to 99.
Awesome.
So $25 per person. If you're interested, you're listening to this, you're like, I want to learn more about acting, I highly encourage you to check it out. In 2 hours, we're going to be looking at stuff that you might learn over the course of a semester, stuff that I found to be helpful in my own journey with acting.
That's fantastic because, anyone can take an acting class, you guys. You don't have to be a professional actor or want to just be an actor because acting classes really help us learn so much about ourselves and how we relate to the rest of the world. I know so many people that started as actors and are doing amazing other things now. I mean, they're working with the public. They are, a performer like yourself. There are people who are in public speaking and marketing and all kinds of things where acting really having those skills really translates into so many other facets. We talked about this earlier. I used to do some work on TV for ABC 36. I did a talk show, and then I did some wacky segments in the morning. And my acting background really, really, really helped me understand what I was doing and learn to be free and in the moment, frankly, with a lot of stuff. Jeremy, I think this is great. I can't wait to take one of your classes. I think it's going to be a lot of fun because, as we've discussed, I have never done anything like this in my life. I might pass out, who knows? But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And you all, once I get to take a class, I'm going to make a video about it so that you all can see the wacky antics that ensue as I learn to paint with a palette knife. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, so stay tuned for that as well.
Oh, yeah.
But Jeremy, I want to move on to one of my favorite segments. It's called 10 Things, and I have a list of questions here. Some of them are yes or no, but some of them are going to require an explanation from you about some different things. We just want to get to know you as a person a little better, the man behind the canvas. So let's get started. We are here, we do this podcast, we record at the Lexington Public Library at the Northside branch in their digital studio. So in honor of libraries and books, number one, tell me your favorite book.
Oh, that's such a good question. That's hard.
It's
That's
a
so
hard one, isn't it?
Yes.
Pick one that you really want to share with us. How about that?
Okay, that works. Yes. I absolutely love The Giver by Lois Lowry.
Oh my gosh, that's an incredible book.
It really is. I read that book when I was in middle school, and the book messed me up in the best way possible.
Well, sure. It's I don't want to say disturbing. I don't want to take anyone away from it, but it deals with some really interesting concepts.
Oh, yes. Like, what does it mean to actually live in a utopia?
Yeah.
And, what appears to be perfect, but underneath the surface, there's quite a lot that is not perfect.
That's one thing I came away from that is that there really is no such thing as utopia.
Right.
It's something that we can strive for certain, but maybe never quite achieve. Who knows? Interestingly, Jeremy, I was in a production at Lexington Children's Theater of The Giver.
No way.
It was reworked into a play.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of the most fun experiences ever. And it's a haunting book. And so it was just lovely to perform that for middle school students to give them a broader idea of what happiness really means.
Yes.
And so that's so crazy that I did a performance of that. I was one of the elders.
Oh, wow.
And that's a favorite book of yours. So let's move on to sort of related to books here. Number 2, do you prefer physical books, audiobooks, or ebooks?
Ooh, that's another good question. I love all the good questions,
Oh,
Kim.
yeah.
I love physical books, and the only reason I would say that is because of the smell.
Yeah,
Like
it's a real thing.
It's a real thing. Like I'm such a sensory person. But I will say if I'm on the road, like if I'm driving, I of course don't read physical books
I,
because that would be dangerous.
little bit.
A
I
little
mean,
bit.
a little hard to multitask that one.
Right. But if I'm down, if I'm in my house and I have my coffee, a physical book wins.
Right, but an
Yeah.
audiobook is definitely the way to go if you happen to be driving. And
Yes.
I think it's the way to go if you happen to be a passenger as a person who gets severely motion sick. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Yeah, that gets a little ugly. So let's move into a different category here. What is your favorite movie?
Oh, that's another
I
really good
know there's so many
question.
categories. One that you're really into lately. How about that?
Okay, that works. Yes, I watched a lot of movies, like new movies in the theater, and I do love them all, but I always go back to the classic movies. And so I would say this might sound really cheesy, so please forgive me if it does. Like, because I see characters in terms of color and because I look at stories in terms of color, absolutely love Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, 1971, I think it was,
Yeah.
Gene Wilder. There's just something special about that story. It's
That's an
so,
amazing classic too.
yeah, it's deep.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful movie. A lot of people might know the newer version, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Johnny
Yes.
Depp, which honestly, I haven't seen that and I need to. But let me tell you, that Gene Wilder classic, his performance, top notch.
So good.
Yeah, and the visuals in that movie, so incredible, which would make sense with you as a visual person.
Right,
That
right.
It's just a fantastic movie. If you all haven't seen that, I highly encourage that. Okay, let's move on. This is a really difficult question,
Oh,
Jeremy.
no, I'm
Okay, first
scared.
off, let me know, are you an omnivore? Do you eat, are you a meat eater?
Oh
'Cause
yes,
this-
I love meat.
Okay, so same. So question number 4, burger or pizza?
Ooh, burger.
Burger, tell me why.
Yes, unless it's Goodfellas pizza, then
That's
then
different.
Goodfellas.
That's a
Yeah,
whole other
that's different.
category.
Yeah. I love burgers. I am one of those people. It's almost like if I go to Chili's, I'll always get their 3 for me, the old timer burger. They're not paying me to advertise this, by the way. I'm just saying. But I love burgers for some reason. I don't know. Since I was a kid, I've just loved burgers.
You're a burger guy.
Yeah.
And I really shouldn't have mentioned the whole omnivore thing earlier because there are a lot of really good meat substitutes out there, I
Yeah.
mean, really, really good. So that's something to keep in mind too. You don't have to be a beef lover to be a burger lover. So there's that.
Right.
So this is a question that I have designed just for you. Do you prefer handmade art, that is like drawing with a pencil or painting with brushes with using your actual hands, or computer assisted drawing?
Oh, wow. That's a very good question. I love handmade art, I will say, but I also value, I think a lot of people look at AI and they see it as a hindrance to art, but I think it is a tool that we as artists can use to help us.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're like, well, I need to create something that looks like the Wizard of Oz, like the Oz land, and if you don't know where to start, you can always start with AI to help you know, okay, maybe these are some options of what I could, something I could do. But I think at the end of the day, using something that is computer generated and making it your own is what makes it extra special.
I see what
Does that
you
make
mean.
sense?
It really does. Yeah, I understand how it can be an inspirational tool. Just like anything else, literally seeing something with your eyes and traveling to different places, you're still seeing images.
Right.
So this is just another form of images.
Yes.
I love that. Okay. So you can really get some inspiration that way. Let's move on to number 6. As far as a vacation goes, okay, do you prefer a beach, mountains, or a new city?
I would say I prefer the beach.
Okay.
So ever since I was a kid, my family and I have gone to Florida,
Nice.
like most every year.
That sounds good right now.
Yeah, I want to go so badly right now.
Yeah, let's get out. Let's
Right.
go.
We would always play what we called wiffle ball on the beach.
Wiffle ball. That's
Wiffle
the
ball.
one with the plastic ball that has a bunch of holes in it and a plastic bat.
Yes. Yeah, you know wiffle ball?
I know wiffle ball. My friend Kel. I'm not very sports like. I like to watch sports, but I'm a little uncoordinated. So I remember back in the 80s, we wore these culotte shorts. Okay, they were these big, wide shorts that just giant shorts. It was really weird. And my friend was batting the wiffle ball to me. and not quite understanding how to catch them. I mean, I know how to catch the ball, but for some reason I didn't. And she batted it right up my shorts.
Oh,
It
no.
was hilarious.
Ah.
That was the last time I tried anything. No, we tried tennis one time and I let the ball hit me in the chest versus swatting it. So it was just that I have problems.
Oh, man.
But so you're on the beach playing wiffle ball.
Yeah.
The whole family?
The whole family, yeah.
That's pretty
It
awesome.
was fun.
I like that. I'd like a good beach too. That sounds really, really, really nice right now. Some warm water, sand in my toes, sun beating down, sunburn boiling under my skin because I
Right.
don't think I need sunscreen. Here's a tip, y'all. You've got to wear your sunscreen. Okay, just remember to wear your sunscreen. That's very important. So let's move on to another question. Your favorite city outside of Lexington? 'Cause we all know how wonderful Lexington is, and we all know how wonderful our surrounding communities are that make Central Kentucky so unique. Do you have a favorite city outside of Kentucky?
Yes. Can it be international?
It sure can.
Fantastic. Okay, so when I was in college, I got to go on a 2-week tour to Germany and Poland.
Ooh.
It was so much fun, Kim. We explored the cities. We got to go to museums and learn all about the cultures. And so I would say for me, my favorite city outside of Kentucky would be Krakow, Poland.
Okay.
Yeah, it's spelled like Krakow, but they pronounce it Krakow.
Oh, I thought it was Krakow. Krakow.
Yes.
Yes, this is good to know so that I don't make any insults in the future. Excellent. Well, I think that's fabulous that you got to visit. So you'd visit there again, you think?
Oh, totally. There are castles, there's food, there are cobblestones. I
I
mean,
love me some cobblestones.
right?
Oh, that sounds fabulous. I love that. That's someplace to think about going sometime in the future then for sure.
Yeah.
So question number 8, dogs or cats?
I would say for me, and I'm a little biased, so I would say dogs.
Dogs. I like that.
Yeah.
Do you have a dog?
So I don't, but I grew up with a Beagle Dachshund. Her name was Piper.
Oh, so
Yeah,
cute. I
so
love
cute.
that. I love that.
Loved Piper.
My husband really wants a dog now, but we have 4 cats in the house, and I just cannot support 4 more legs in the house right now. But he's
No.
been guilt tripping me a little bit. He's like, well, he's in his early 50s now, and he says, I feel, Kim, like I'm at a stage where a man deserves a dog. And that broke my heart into 50,000 pieces, but apparently not enough to say that we can have a dog. Maybe someday, Adam. Maybe someday we'll get a dog. But I do love dogs, too. I'm partial to cats because I got 4 of them running around the house. But,
Right.
But, maybe someday.
That's right.
So question number 9, tea or coffee?
I would say coffee.
Okay.
I can drink, okay, so I'm really weird with coffee. I can drink it black or frappuccino. Like there's no in between. I'm like, I either got to have it all natural or all sugar.
That's hilarious. There's no in between there. Cream and sugar? No.
Right. No.
Okay.
Is that bad? I don't know.
No, I think that's you know what you like.
Yes.
And that's important to know oneself. Absolutely.
Yes.
This is one of my favorite questions for some reason. Number 10 and our last question. Introvert or extrovert?
Ooh, I'm an extrovert. I am. But it's weird because I take that test, the Myers-Briggs test.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to get like 90% extrovert. Now it's like 60% extrovert. Isn't that interesting?
That is, and I wonder if it has something to do with us as we get older, because when I was younger and when I was in high school and doing a lot more theater, I would have considered myself an extrovert. But at this point now, and I'm 49 now, the idea of going out and doing 2 events in one day is the most terrifying thing possible. I will do anything to get out of a 2-event day, and I've now started planning my life so that never happens so I don't disappoint people.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that changes with age, And honestly, during COVID, I got to know myself a lot better by having to be at home all the time by myself and learn who I was and what I liked and to make those decisions from then on. So
Right.
isn't that interesting how we're changing a little bit? So you really appreciate some time at home now and alone.
I do. I do. I think it's good to have some quiet time to reflect. I think having that helps us as artists.
Mm-hmm.
Having that time of going, well, what does this mean? And how do I feel? Almost like self-therapy in a way.
I agree with
Or-
you there. Yeah.
Or a self-soothing time,
I think we need that time to decompress, to understand who we are. And I think we do that more as we get older.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for participating in 10 things. It's always fun for me to get to learn about people a little bit more, and I'm often surprised.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Something that we have to do right now is a shout out to Mario Day. Jeremy, I think you just learned about Mario Day today.
I did.
It is on March 10th. So if you spell Mario, it ends with an I and an O at the end, which can also look like a 1 and a 0. Therefore, with having Mario Day on March 10th, get it? It spells Mario, M-A-R-1-0. Mario.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Mario Day. So that's coming up in just a few days here. Jeremy, did you ever play any Mario games when you were younger?
Oh, yes. My brother and I absolutely loved to play Mario growing up.
Which was your favorite game? Do you remember?
So we loved Mario Kart.
Oh, that's the original one?
Yeah, like the original. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's so good.
Yes.
That ghost world where you can knock someone off the wood and they just go flying anytime. They just break through the wood on the sides. That is the best. That's also dangerous for brothers to play.
Oh, yes, it's very dangerous. My brother always got first place. I was like 8th place, 9th place.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
Yeah, it was bad.
That's not good. No. Well, my game of choice was Super Mario World. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yes.
That is a really difficult one. You can play through all of the levels and go to the last castle naturally, or there are different shortcuts to that castle.
Yes.
Well, my husband, who's really good at video games, he decided that he wanted to play Super Mario World because that's what I played when I was younger, and he wanted to know what all the fuss was about. So he says, I'm going to go through the whole game, naturally through each world and not do any shortcuts. I was like, okay.
Oh.
And he got to one of the crazy raft worlds and he lost his mind. He absolutely lost his mind. And at the very end, he was like, that's it. This game is not winnable this way.
Oh, no.
This from someone who solves every game. And I have never been so validated in my life because I was like, I never could get through either. You're such a good video game player. If you can't do it, none of us mere commoners can.
Right.
It was so frustrating. But I've still got it at home, and I think I'm going to have to go home and play Super Mario World when we get out of here.
Do it.
So everybody, happy Mario Day. It's Monday, March 10th. Celebrate by playing your favorite Mario game, going crazy trying to go through some of the worlds, and have a good day for that. So what's your favorite Mario game? My listener viewers, you're just listening right now. What am I talking about? So listeners, what's your favorite Mario game? Let me know on my voicemail text line at 859-444-4524. And I'd like to say Jeremy, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a lot of fun.
My pleasure, Kim. Thank you for having me on here.
The greatest time. This was so fun and so informative. Thank you again, Jeremy.
Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. Let me know your thoughts. Send a voicemail or a text to that number that I just mentioned, 859-444-4524, or find me on Instagram at Kim Dixon Media. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Special thanks to the digital studio of the Northside branch of the Lexington Public Library, featuring computers with the full Adobe suite, a sound-treated audio booth, and a fully loaded production studio. The digital studio is perfect for beginners all the way through advanced production professionals. Check out their classes, too, at lexpublib.org. Out There with Kim is made possible with production support from Dynamics Productions. Dynamics Productions is an audio production facility in Lexington, Kentucky. Dynamics helps people and businesses communicate by crafting soundtracks for TV and radio, videos, advertising, podcasts, audiobooks, and more. On the web at dxaudio.com. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.